Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Open Tech Innovations again with part 2 of our slider, full slider using CSS and HTML. I want to thank you and welcome you back if you've joined part 2 of this series. A few things I wanted to mention in the video is the Team Treehouse that I spoke to you about, and what I will do is I will provide you with a link in the description after this video is uploaded, so that way you can take a look at Team Treehouse. And I believe they have a trial for 7 days, and so you can give it a shot. But anyways, I wanted to give credit to Team Treehouse for the tutorial that I'm actually conducting for these 2 videos. Again, I've slightly modified the code a little bit just because I kind of wanted to, keep it original, but at the same time add my own little thoughts to it. But anyways, so let's move forward. So in the first video, if you notice, we made the HTML document. And if you have that available, then it should look like this. So you got the navigation up top and then 4 radio buttons in addition to each heading. And I just noticed that each one of my headings say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Excuse me. Which are all heading 1s, but we're going to change that. So if you did the same thing as I did, go ahead and change each one of these to 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a quick recap on what we did initially is we created a main container called slider wrapper, and then we created the navigation section, which is basically a header HTML5 element in addition to the sub or the siblings of this container called label. And each label is for an input here in the slider activity. So for example, this label here triggers this slide, here triggers that one, and so on. So you kind of get the point. All right, so real quick, I need to set up my environment because, again, I told you I'm using CSS. So I need to open a command prompt, bring it off into the window here. And then what I need to do is I need to go into that directory, and then I need to go into the assets folder, and then I need to watch a file. CSS/style.scss, comma, or colon, CSS/style.css. So for those of you that are wondering what I'm doing, I'm using a pre-processing language called Sass that enables me to create mixins, variables, nest, all that good stuff in one document instead of doing it in CSS. So I'll take you real quick to where that's at. So this is the site that I typically go to for all my references, and it's called sass.lang, which is Sass, or sass-lang, which is Sass language. And there's a lot of rich information in terms of how to install it. There's 2 different ways to install it. You can either do it through command prompt, or you can do it through using an application. And quite frankly, I find it a lot easier to just use it in command prompt. But in this case, what you would actually have to do now, the command prompt is a little bit more difficult in terms of its setup because you actually have to set up your PC or laptop as a development environment using the Ruby on Rails installer. And again, I'm just kind of real quick going to go over this just so you get an idea, because you're probably wondering why I'm doing this and you're doing CSS. But anyhow, so here's all the different downloads for Ruby, and in order for you to run Sass using the command prompt, you actually have to have this environment installed in addition to the gem Sass installed as well. And again, here it goes over that, talks about Linux, Windows, and Mac. These programs here are they're pretty neat. They're very useful. The one I particularly liked a lot back in the past was Prepros. Now, Prepros is officially a paid application, and I'm assuming that's because a lot of people were using it. But at one point they had a open source slash free or paid, and then I guess they pulled the plug on the open source because they were doing really well with it. Scout's pretty neat. It's a good application to use, and of course, if you're using Koala is actually pretty neat as well. Live Reload. I mean, they're all great programs. Ghost Lab is a new one. I haven't seen that one before. But the two above here, well, they're actually all Mac, so they'll all work for Mac. But anyways, so real quick, let's move forward. So what I've done here is, because I have the SAS environment installed using the Rails installer, Ruby on Rails, I'm able to watch a file, and in this case, I'm selectively declaring a map for each file. So what I'm saying to SAS is, do me a favor and watch this folder, and in this folder is this file, and in sequence to this file is in this folder, and it's this file. So what happens is when I hit enter, takes a moment, as long as I don't have any errors in terms of the map. Now here I got an issue. It says here, the SAS is watching for changes, press control to stop. Error, no such file direct, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so that's because I have not created those folders or those files. So let's do that. That's my mistake. So I'm going to create a new file and call it style.scss. And then here, automatically it created the file for me, so I don't really have to, because I had already committed this here. Although it threw an error, as soon as I created this file, it automatically mapped and sent the file to the CSS folder. Now, had I not mapped it out like this with this colon in the center, then it would have created the file inside this directory right here, and that's not what I wanted. So we're good there. Now, if you're not using the SAS line or prepros or any kind of pre-processing language or application, such as one of these, then go ahead and just create a style.css in your CSS directory that you created initially from the first video. And once you've done that, then we can begin coding. Now, again, if you're not using SAS, it's going to be kind of hard because you may not have the same effect on a lot of these as you would in SAS. So please bear with me. Again, if you have any questions, just comment or send me an email, either or, and I'll be able to help you as much as possible. So let's move forward. Now, here in my CSS file, the first thing, oh, and by the way, in the description box below, if you'd like, go ahead and grab a link that I provided for the type of font that we'll be using for the heading. So in this case, we're going to use a Google font, and it's called Audio Wide, and it's really just for the heading. That's really all it's for. Everything else will be using sans serif, I believe, or serif. Yeah, Arial or sans serif. You don't have to worry about that. So the link that I provided you is this one here. So if you want to copy that, and then let's just do this. So add import, and then URL, and in there we want to paste that font and then close it. Now I shouldn't throw it. Okay, so I didn't throw any errors. I got to check because I'm writing in CSS. I may throw an error, so it's going to catch it. All right. Next thing we want to do is we want to target the main HTML document. Now this video gets kind of long. I may turn this into a 3-part series in order to finish it all, because there's more things I need to discuss with you moving forward. So we're going to say box sizing. We're going to set that at border box. And then we're going to set the font family to Arial and sans serif. Next thing we're going to do is set a font size of 16 pixels, which is standard for most browsers. A font weight of normal, and we're going to set a line height 1.4. So this is just targeting the HTML, the whole document. So if we refresh, we don't really get a difference. Right. Next thing we want to do is we want to target all elements, I should say. We're going to use the pseudo class before, and we're also going to declare after. And we're going to set the box sizing to inherit. So it'll inherit all the styling, such as, it'll inherit the box sizing from the HTML document, which is a border box. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to target the heading. And what we're going to do is we're going to style it. We're going to set the color. Sorry about that. We're going to set it to white. We're going to set the font family. We're going to set it to the audio wide, which is right here. And then cursive. And then we're going to set a font size 2Ms. A weight. Sorry. We're going to set the font size to 2Ms and then another font size to 6 viewport width. So basically what that means is that the font size is going to be 2Ms, and it should not exceed a maximum of 6 viewport width. And so real quick, let's go to MDN network so we can look at that together. We're going to go to CSS and we're going to type in VMs or VW, sorry. So we got width right here. Let's see, what else do we got? Probably should have had all of this available. So we got the different units. All right, here we go. So an @rule declaration block is used of the viewport lengths are invalid and the declaration will be dropped. All right, so viewport width, 1 divided by 1/100th of the width of the viewport. So in a nutshell, that means that as the viewport width changes, so too will the font based on these calculations here, 1 and divided by 1/100th of its width, viewport. So at 400, 500 pixels, it's going to match, well, it should match that particular size based on the viewport width that we've provided. All right, so moving forward. So the next thing we want to do is we want to set a line height. And we're going to set that to 1.2. We're going to give it a margin all around of 0.5 Ms by 0 by 3 Ms. and then we're going to give it a text shadow, and we're going to set it to 1 pixel by 1 pixel by 1 pixel. Color is going to be 333. So save that. So let's go ahead and save that and see what happens. Looks like nothing yet. Let me go ahead and refresh my all right. All right, so let me go check my document. So what we forgot, well, I forgot to inform you, is to add the directory or the actual file. So if we come back, voila, we've got style. So far so good. So let's go back, and at some point during this tutorial we're going to create a mixin. Well, I'm going to create a mixin, then I'll explain to you what I'm doing. So at the moment we're just going to focus on everything else other than that. So the next thing we want to do is hit HTML, body, and we want to give it a height of 100%. We want to give it a width as well, 100%. And we want to get rid of the margin, and we want to get rid of the padding. That's pretty typical. So if I refresh, you'll notice that it kind of shifted up to the left a little bit, and that's because we got rid of all the margin and padding, so we no longer have it there. All right, so now on to the fun stuff. Now we're going to target the main wrapper. So I'm using CSS once again, so I'm gonna say slide wrapper syntax. And let's do it as wrapper. All right, so I'm going to say slider dash wrapper, and that's going to be the main class here. And in that, we want to give it a height of 100%, a width 100%, and also again give it a position relative overflow, and we're going to hide and give it a background of, let's see, 120103. Color, we want it to be white, and we want to text align everything to the center. All right, give it a refresh, and there you have it. So far we've got everything where we need it. And right now these are not obviously not clickable, because, well, they kind of are. No, they're not. Okay. Yeah, maybe they are. I'm not sure. Oh well. Anyways, so these aren't active yet because we don't have them set up in the CSS to activate those particular stylings. All right. Next thing we want to do is we want to target the header. Now, because I'm using CSS, I am able to do this. As you can see, I'm now second level in from the main container. And I can do that because I'm able to nest in SAS. So in the header, I want to give it a background. The background, I want it to be 3E 474 F and then box shadow, we want it to be 0 M 1 M and give it 1 and 1. Oops. Let me just refresh here. You see the header part up there? Got that color. We want to position this one absolute because it's going to be absolute to the relative element, which is the main container. Then what else? We want to set it as a top. We want it at 0. We want it left also as well, 0. We want to give it a z-index of 900, and we want to give it a width of 100%. We want it to span the entire document. Refresh here. So basically that just kind of slid everything in place. Now in the header, again, because I'm using SAS, I'm able to target these elements without having to repeat them. We're going to give it a color of 788188. Give it a cursor of a pointer. And we're going to display block. Display. Inline block. And then give it a line height of 4.25 ems. Font size of 0.75. .75 ems. Font weight bold, and we're going to give it a padding of 0 and then 1 M. Refresh. Alright, so you'll see we've got a little bit of a style to our heading. And give me 1 second, I need to pause for just a moment. I'll be right back. Alright, I apologize for that slight delay. Alright. So far we're making some progress. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to target this hover. So I'm going to say this should work. Once again, because I'm using SAS. And I want it to hover at 2E3536, or no, B. Alright, so let me test and see if that worked. And it does. So again, that's the beautiful thing about using SAS is you can do all this. Like for example, if you wanted to target this label and do this hover state to it, you would actually have to type this out. Header label hover, and then you would start the whole coding process. But in this case, because I'm using SAS, I'm able to do all that just by calling the ampersand, and the colon hover. So basically it's a pseudo class. So, all right, so we're good there. The next thing we want to do is we want to target the images. So inside of the slider wrapper, I'll locate the last bracket because I don't want to stay here in the header, because if I stay there and I call the class that was identified here, won't work, because CSS is going to think that it's in the header and it's not. So I have to make sure that when I'm writing in SAS that I pay attention to how I named my HTML elements and what divisions they're in. So here I'll put a marker and say slider or just slides. Alright, so slides, and then now we want to target that class right there. So come back, and basically what we're going to do is give it a height and a width. So give it a height of 100% and a width of 100%. We're going to position it absolute because there's already a relative item in the document, which is the container. We are also going to, in fact, yeah, so we're going to top 0 and left 0. We're going to z-index it at 10, and then we're going to give it a padding of 8M, 1M, and 0. So 8M, 1M, and 0. We're going to give it a background color, and that'll be 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 0, 1, 0, 3. We'll also give it a background size of cover, because we want all these images. That's basically what the slide is. All this syntax you see here is all related to the images. So we're not going to be placing images in the HTML. We're going to actually be placing them in the CSS. And so in order for them to be not only responsive, but at the same time respond in terms of the size for the window, we need to specify the size of the image, in addition to positioning that image exactly in the center. So 50-50. But also the size of the image as well. We're going to give it a transition, and we're going to transition it from the left at 0 seconds to 0.75. So basically what's going to happen is it's going to come in at 0 and go out at 0.75. In addition to the slide, we want to have a transition for the H1. So we're going to give it an opacity of 0. So that way that when the image comes, the next image comes in, the heading has a 0 opacity, so you can't see it until it actually finishes its transition. We're also going to give it, we're going to transform it, and we'll translate its y-axis at 100%. And then during that transition, we want to during that transition, we want to transform it from 0.5 seconds to 0.5 seconds again, 0.5. Provide an opacity of 0.5 seconds. Okay, I'm going to save this. Take a look at my document. You'll notice that everything is gone. Even when we select, nothing happens. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to conclude this for the second part. I'm not going to add a third because we still have a little bit more coding to go, and I don't want to bore you. So I want to thank you very much for watching this second video. Please stay tuned for part 3. If you like what you see, subscribe to my channel, comment on the description below, send me an email, thumbs up, please, all positive stuff, and hopefully see you in the third video. Thank you.